After living here in Turkey for so long, we'd like to share with you the things that we like here and things that we don't like here.
So let's start with the things we do like here.
The weather. Just look at the weather. For many months of the year, the weather is perfect here. There are some cool places in Turkey, like the Black Sea region, and even places that have snow 5 months of the year, but the coastal regions are usually good all year round, apart from maybe it's a bit too hot in August and July.
We love the scenery. Everywhere you go, there's always something beautiful to see and admire.
With hundreds of waterfalls, snow-capped mountains, canyons, crystal blue coastal waters, rivers, and millions of hectares of forests and wilderness. This is truly a beautiful country. And because of this, there is a huge amount of surviving wildlife. Bears, wolves, jackals, lynx, huge turtles, wild boar, and even occasionally they spot a leopard. And it's a major migration route for thousands of birds like flamingos, pelicans, spoonbills and bee-eaters. And it's not just natural beauty. Many of the councils in the towns and cities have created beautiful parks like this one in Fethiye. And there's lots of lovely places to cycle too. And not forgetting the stunning architecture of the older buildings all over Turkey. Historical sites, the history and the museums. There are thousands of historical sites in Turkey, and some are rewriting their history books like Göbekli Tepe and Çatalhöyük, which are between 8 and 12,000 years old. And the museums here are some of the best in the world, with some of the most amazing artifacts dating back to the beginning of human existence. Many are priceless objects as well from the Hittite and Roman periods. The entrance fees are reasonably priced and sometimes even free. Turkish food, it's highly rated by gastronomes all over the world. From street food to luxury restaurants, you can get a meal any time of day from early morning till late in the evening. And a few soup kitchens and restaurants stay open all night. We just love Turkish food, and every city has its own specialities. My favourite food is in the locantas, which have lots of vegetarian choices too. And you can always find Indian, Chinese and British dishes in most of the resorts. And most of it is organic.
I love shopping in the local markets because there's so much choice and it's reasonably priced, a lot better than the UK prices in the rest of Europe. Look at all these tomatoes, 15 lira a kilo, which in today's exchange rate is about 45 pence a kilo.
Although there is an economic crisis here with huge inflation over the last couple of years, prices here are still quite reasonable compared to other countries, especially if you earn dollars, euros or sterling. And many things are still reasonably priced, like having an operation at a private hospital here, dental surgery. Just to tell you a quick story, I had a filling drop out while I was in the UK and I couldn't get a filling put back in by a dentist for 3 weeks. So I got it done here the same day and it was about half the price. And Trudy loves to have her hair done here because it's about half the price of the UK. You can get drugs over the counter here, which would normally need the doctor's prescription, and they're quite a lot cheaper too. Let me just briefly mention a few other things we love here. Trendyol. It's a company very similar to Amazon. You can buy anything you like online and it's delivered to your house within a couple of days. The phone network works very well here. You can get 4G here, even in remote places on the top of the mountain. And the Turkish toilets. I must mention the Turkish toilets, which are made into a form of bidet by having a little pipe at the back of the toilet so you can wash your bum. What a great idea. Transport. Over the last 20 years, there's been huge investment in internal transport. Intercity buses will take you anywhere in Turkey and reasonably priced too. They're frequent, modern and clean. Every town has a dolmuş service, that's a minibus service which will take you to all outlying villages and around any town or city. The roads are good with new bridges and the motorways are far better than they are in the UK. They've had a high-speed train here, I think since 2018, which goes between Istanbul and Ankara, which is going to be extended to over 6,000 miles of track to almost every major city in Turkey, at a tenth of the price of the antiquated UK trains. And it's cheaper to fly to many regions of Turkey via Istanbul, with new airports in many of the major cities. And wherever you fly to, you'll find reasonably priced car hire too. And when you pull up at a garage to fill up your tank, you'll find that you get personal service. You won't even have to get out of your car. And they'll clean your front window screen too. We've travelled to many countries around the world and met some lovely people from different cultures and nationalities, but definitely found the Turkish people to be the friendliest and the most helpful. They generally have a great respect for their elders and they're helpful to their neighbours if they're in need, especially in the outlying villages away from the big cities.
And the Turks have a great sense of humour at these places. Oh, thank you. Teşekkürler. Sağ ol. Look, it's arrived.
That was quick. Oh, şuna bak ya. Wow, ne güzel ya.
Vay. Çıkın ya. Ya Nick problem ya.
Ne sorunu var ya?
Evet Nick problem.
Ne kadar borcumuz?
Borcu çok.
Allah borcumuz çok.
Şapkaya ver yeter.
Kaç?
Şapkaya versen yeter.
Give me your hat and that's enough.
Tamam.
Yok, bu çok değerli bir şapka ya.
Ama
Vallahi gerçekten.
tavuk pahalandı. Her şey pahalı. Ne yapalım? Şapkaya ver yeter.
Şapka değerli mi böyle bir şey?
Evet. Kaç
Ama-
para?
Ama çok değerli bir şapka.
Yakışmaz ya.
Yakışır ya, boş ver ya, yakıştı ya. Yakıştı al, yakıştı. Ya.
Böyle çok güzel. Süper.
I told you, their humour is very much like ours.
200 yen mi?
Evet peşin.
Tamam.
Peşin.
Tamam. Tavuk versem,
Tavuk.
canlı tavuk versem.
Olur.
I just-
Nerede canlı tavuğun var mı?
I said, what about if I give you a live chicken? That's all right.
Peki.
And it's generally safe here. You hear about crimes of passion, but other crimes are low compared to the UK and the Americas. Of course, in the big cities like Istanbul, you should never drop your guard, but you could say that about any big city throughout the world.
And now let's have a look at the things we don't like.
Firstly, a huge percentage of the Turkish people are smokers. The government implemented a smoking ban here in 1997, which has been amended several times to include public buildings, cafes, restaurants, bars and public transport. And no advertising is allowed either. Unfortunately, over the years, we've seen an increase in smoking, especially with young people, where it seems to have become a fashion again. And this law is, in many areas, is not being enforced very well, especially in restaurants with open doors. Many of the smokers here don't consider people on other tables close to them that are eating. And so in restaurants, we always look for a table away from smokers. Often the owners say nothing to them because they all smoke themselves. And of course, this is damaging to the Turkish health generally, The life expectancy of men here is only 73 years old. That's about 8 years less than the rest of Europe, and many of them die from lung cancer or heart disease caused by smoking. So this brings us to another point, the rubbish in Turkey. Over the years it has got better because they do recycling now, but many beauty spots and up in the forests you will find rubbish that people have thrown. And many cigarette ends are thrown in the streets from smokers too, and they'll also put their cigarette ends out in the sand on the beach. And you can see thousands of cigarette ends in some of the beaches. Of course, the councils try to keep the beaches clean and the streets clean, but out in the beauty spots away from the town, you will find rubbish, unfortunately. Buying a car. New cars here in Turkey have a huge tax put on them by the government, a purchase tax and a luxury tax, which can make a new car twice its original price or even more if it's a luxury version. Because of this, used second-hand cars are also ridiculously high priced compared to used cars in the UK, Europe or America, often being 10 times the price that you would pay in any of those countries. And the cheapest car you can buy, which would be a Renault 12 with no doors or windows, will still cost you £3,000.
Just to give you a comparison, this is a 2007 model Volvo that me and my dad went to look at a forecourt in the UK. It had got 100,000 miles on the clock and we ended up buying it.
But look at this for engineering. Don't you think that's just amazing? This is a Volvo C70 and we bought this for £2,700 second hand. What do you think this would cost you in Turkey?
So this is a similar car that we found on arabam.com in Turkey, and it had done a bit more mileage, but it was a slightly younger model, and it was on for 1,350,000 Turkish lira. That at today's exchange rate is just over £40,000.
In Turkey, they have a different policy about dogs. Dogs here are not usually put down. They're taken to vets and inoculated, and then they're put back on the streets, which is very humane compared to, I suppose, to other countries. But unfortunately, sometimes they get together in packs, these dogs, and there has been incidents where people have been bitten. If you are bitten, of course, you have to have the rabies injections. They have a tendency to chase bicycles, and I have actually been bitten by one. And Trudy's been chased by a huge dog, which frightened her to death. We are dog lovers, and I've had dogs myself in the past, but it is a difficult situation, and it can be quite dangerous, especially if little children are involved and there's a pack of dogs. I'm not sure how we could resolve the situation, to be honest. As I've said before, Turkish people are usually lovely people, but occasionally when a few of them are driving, they turn into what's called the traffic canavarları, which is the driving monsters. And you just have to be aware that there are some people that just do not follow the rules when they're driving. Most people are really good drivers, and there's so many traffic accidents at Bayram. That's the religious holiday. And on the newer motorways, the speed limit is 140 kilometers per hour, which is 87 miles an hour. And even though there are less cars in Turkey than there are in most European countries, the death toll on the roads is much higher, unfortunately. Music. Turks have a love for music, including genres like arabesque, Turkish folk music and Turkish pop music, with so many famous Turkish musicians like Tarkan, Candan Ertekin, Barış Manço, Yıldız Tilbe, just to name a few. Unfortunately, in restaurants and bars, especially those run by youngsters, you only hear music which should really be played in a nightclub. and it's played at full volume. They have no consideration for the age or the nationality of the customers. And even on the beaches here, especially the ones which are run privately, you can't really find a quiet space. And of course the restaurants sometimes compete against each other by putting their music louder than the one next door. So you may not agree with the things that we like or dislike, so please make a comment below in the comments section.
Don't forget to like,
Subscribe,
and hit the notification bell so you don't miss where we go next.
Thanks for watching.